Hello there, second graders. Welcome to a recorded version of Story Time with Miss Hess. Hope everyone's having a good day out there. We recently read a story that you all were really into. It was called The Viper. Remember that story? Yeah, that was a great story, wasn't it? And we talked about why it was so great was because of the element of suspense, right? Do you remember what suspense means? Think about that for a second. If there's someone you can turn and talk to in your house, you can talk for a minute about what does suspense mean? Right. So if you remember, suspense means it's like in a story, or sometimes when you're watching a movie or something, when you're kind of like sitting at the edge of your seat wondering, wow, what's going to happen, makes your heart kind of pound and stuff. That's what suspense means. So today's story has that element of suspense in it. It's called The Tailypo, a ghost story, and it's told by Joanna Galdone and illustrated by Paul Galdone. As we read through this, I would like you to think about, what do you think the author's purpose was in writing this story? What did she want to do for us? So when we think about an author's purpose, we think of that acronym PI. And first of all, what is an acronym? The military uses them all the time, and we do in school. Acronym means like letters that stand for words. So when we're talking about author's purpose, PI, P-I-E, the P in PI stands for persuade. Is the author trying to persuade you to do something? Okay? I stands for inform. Is the author trying to teach you about a topic? Or is it E for entertain? The author just wants you to have a great time, just for the pure pleasure of the experience. So I want you to be thinking about author's purpose as we read through this story. Okay, so the Tailypo. And I wanted to point out that this story is an oldie but goodie. If we turn to the title page, right across from the title page, we have copyright information. So copyright tells us when the book was published, where it was published, all those kinds of things. So this book was published by a book company back in 1977. So it's quite old, but it's really a good one. Okay. Remember, buckle up. A long time ago, an old man lived by himself in the deep, big woods. His cabin had only one room, and that room was his parlor, his bedroom, his dining room, and his kitchen too. And you know that word parlor, I bet there's a pretty decent chance you don't know what that word means. I used to hear my grandmother say this word. So parlor is an old way of saying living room. So lived in this little cabin. The old man had 3 dogs. One was called Uno, one was called Eno, and one was called Cumtico Calico. One day the man decided to go hunting to catch something for his supper. "Here, here, here!" he shouted to his dogs as they came bounding off the porch, eager for a chase. After many hours of hunting, the wind began to blow hard from the valley. "It'll be dark soon," the old man said, "and all we've caught is this skinny rabbit." He headed home, afraid he might go to bed hungry that night. The old man cooked and ate the rabbit and gave the bones to the dogs. Then he leaned back in his chair and watched the moon as it rose up big and full. The wind whistled around the cabin. Just as the old man was about to doze off, a most curious creature crept through a crack between the logs in the wall. It had a big, long, furry tail. As soon as the old man saw the varmint, he reached for his hatchet and with one lick, whack! He cut off its tail. Before the man could raise his hatchet a second time, the creature slipped out through the crack and ran away. The old man was still hungry, so he took that big, long tail, cooked it, and ate it. After that, he stuffed up the crack in the wall and went to bed. His stomach was full and he felt so warm and snug that before he knew it, he was asleep. The old man hadn't been asleep very long when he woke up. Something was climbing up the side of his cabin. It sounded like a cat. Scratch, scratch, scratch. "Who's that?" the old man asked. He lay still and listened, and after a while he heard a voice say, "Tailypo, Tailypo, all I want is my Tailypo." Let the suspense begin. The scratching went on, and the old man began to shiver and shake. Then he remembered his dogs. He went to the door and called, "Here, here, here!" The dogs came piling out from under the porch with their noses to the ground. They chased that thing into the deep, big woods. Good thing he's got those dogs. The old man pulled his covers tightly around him and went back to sleep. In the middle of the night, he woke up again. Now he heard something trying to get in right above the cabin door. "Who's that?" he called. "And what do you want at this time of night when all good folks should be in bed?" He listened and he could hear it going, scratch, scratch, scratch. And then he heard the voice say, "Tailypo, Tailypo, I'm coming to get my Tailypo." The old man was so scared he couldn't stand up. So he called his dogs from under his bed. "Uno, Eno, Comtico Calico, here, here, here." And those dogs came bursting around the corner of the cabin. They caught up with that wild thing at the gate and tore the whole fence down trying to get at it. Then they chased it into the swamp. At last, all was quiet again. With a weary sigh, the man went back to sleep. Toward morning, something down in the swamp woke the old man. First, he thought it was the wind blowing louder than usual. listened again, he heard that voice crying, "You know and I know, all I want is my Tailypo." The old man called his dogs. "Here, here, here! Uno, ino, contigo calico!" This time, the dogs didn't come. The old man ran outside into the moonlight and called again, "Here, dogs! Here, here, here!" But there was no trace of them. There was just the sound of the wind blowing around the torn-down fence. That thing had led the dogs way off into the swamp and lost them. Sadly, the man went back inside the cabin and shut and barred the door. Then he went back to bed. Just before daylight, the old man opened his eyes the way people do when they feel there's someone else in the room. There was something stirring among the pots and pans. Then something that sounded just like a cat began climbing up the covers at the foot of the bed. The man listened and heard it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. He looked over the foot of the bed and saw two pointed ears. Then he saw two big, round, fiery eyes staring at him. The old man wanted to call for help, but he was too scared. The thing kept creeping up until it was right next to the old man. "You know and I know that I'm here to get my Tailypo." Ruh-roh. Very scary looking creature. The man sat up and pulled the covers over his head. All at once, he cut his voice and said, "I haven't got your Tailypo." "Yes, you have," said the thing. "Yes, you have." And it jumped on top of that man and scratched everything to pieces. Now, there's nothing left of that old man's cabin in the deep, big woods except the chimney. But folks who live in the valley say that when the moon shines and the wind blows, you can hear a voice say, "Tailypo, Tailypo, now I've got my Tailypo." The end. Did you like it? I hope you found it suspenseful. I sure did. Okay, so now we're going back to our original question at the beginning of this recording about author's purpose. What do you think the author's purpose was in writing that story? Was it to persuade, to inform, or to entertain us? What do you think? You're absolutely right. You guys are so smart out there. It was most certainly entertaining. At least I hope so. I hope it brightened up your day a little bit and that you guys are doing well. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.